Spellbound is a suspenseful mystery noir film made in 1945, which was a means to spread the news about psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is a psychological therapy technique that focuses on exploring the unconscious mind to find the root of psychological problems. This movie, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, was derived from the fictional book The House of Dr. Edwards, written by John Palmer and Hilary A. Saunders back in 1927. Spellbound revolves around two characters, Dr. Constance Peterson, who's a psychoanalyst, and Dr. Anthony Edwards, who we end up discovering is actually an imposter and whose real name is John Ballantyne. In the beginning of the film, Dr. Peterson's director is being forced into retirement, and Ballantyne, impersonating Dr. Edwards, fills in for him. The member of the hospital finds out that Ballantyne is an imposter and have evidence that he shot the real Dr. Edwards back on a ski trip. Ballantyne cannot remember who his real self is and flees. Constance, believing that he was suffering from a guilt complex, goes with him. They eventually end up at an old mentor's house, Dr. Alexander Brulov. When the mentor discovers that Ballantyne has serious mental issues, he decides to help Dr. Peterson uncover the problems with this man. Throughout the film, John has been getting nervous breakdowns when he sees parallel lines on a white background. So when Dr. Brulov discovers this, he decides to analyze one of John's dreams. This is where the psychoanalysis comes in. Upon doing this, they found out much about what has been troubling John. They realized that the parallel lines were ski tracks. Upon discovery, they headed off to a mountain where Edwards was reported dead. While skiing, John goes through many phases of self-evaluation, and finally comes to the memory of him accidentally killing his brother when he was a child. After remembering this, all of his psychological issues break, and he is completely back to his normal self. When they go back to the hospital where Dr. Peterson works, and find out that the psychoanalysis director was the one who murdered Dr. Edwards, this man, and realizing he was caught, he ends up killing himself. And so, throughout this film, we see a few psychological issues Ballantyne possesses, all of which are fixed through psychoanalysis. One of them is his phobia. Every time John sees lines in a white backdrop, he freaks out and starts going crazy. After interpreting his dream, they figure out that these white lines are ski tracks. This is because John witnesses Edward's death on a ski trip. Another thing Ballantyne struggles with throughout the movie is amnesia. John cannot remember who he is, and as he has taken on several other identities throughout the film. On top of these two issues, he also has a guilt complex. He believes that he is the one who killed Dr. Edwards, and he believed that he is not a safe person to be around. Even though he had nothing to do with Edward's death, he still blamed himself for it. All of these psychological issues stemmed from one tragic event in his childhood. When John was a boy, he slid down the railing his brother was sitting on and accidentally knocked him off onto a sharp-pointed fence, therefore killing him. Later in this movie, when he comes to the realization that the death of his brother was an accident, all three of the psychological issues break, and he goes back to being a completely normal man. What drove this film to be made was the producers, David O. Selznick, desire to spread the news about psychoanalysis. At this time, psychoanalysis was a new treatment in psychology, a treatment which had really good positive results. Selznick wanted to share this with the world, so he reached out to Alfred Hitchcock, and together they made this movie. Even though the driving motivation of this movie was to spread the news about the science, Hitchcock was reported to ignore Selznick's personal psychoanalyst, May Ram, when she would correct Hitchcock on mistakes in the film. To this, he would say, "My dear, it's only a movie." So even though this film might not be completely accurate to the science, it still gives an interesting view into the world of psychoanalysis and how it can really help a person. I would recommend this movie to anyone who is interested in learning about decoding psychological issues and tendencies. It's a fast-paced, black and white mystery film that has the charm of a classic movie, but the suspense of any modern-day thriller. What's not to love about it?